LCSC students of history, particular historical research and writing. I didn't think I was going to do a video like this on the syllabus, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try to keep it short because I still think we're going to cover stuff in class, but maybe this is useful. So here we go. All right. Syllabus is easy enough to find. Click. Boom. Here it is, right? What most of y'all go to, at least it's my sense. Oh, hold on. Let me make it. Turn my secrets on. I get the impression that most of y'all shoot down to the bottom right away. I think this is pretty close. Okay? I think it's pretty close in terms of the assignments. We might have to adjust a few things. That's just the nature of the beast. I think that for those of y'all who've been on this ride with me before, understand that if I'm adjusting things, it's for both of our benefits, right? Sometimes it's just too much, you know. So let's go through the syllabus a little bit, and then we can deal with a few other things in class. So this tells you where you are, where you're supposed to go. We've already talked a little bit about the hybrid course, how to get a hold of me. That phone number right there, the best thing about that phone number is that it'll kick you to an email that'll go to my cell phone. All right, that's my office phone number. If I'm in the office, I'll pick up. But as a lot of y'all know, if I'm on campus, I'm usually in a classroom, I'm in meetings, I'm doing stuff. So if you try to call me, you know, later in the day or on a Friday or something, I may be working out of the house. So, but that'll always kick to me. You can always get a hold of me. I'm in 315 Spalding Hall. Zoom is how I prefer to hold court. It's open right now, right? So if you need to talk with me, I'm accessible. I am accessible during my official office hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, 10:30 to 11:30. Tuesdays and Thursdays are always on campus, 10:30 to 11:30. Wednesdays are usually on campus. Got a prediction for a snowpocalypse today, so I decided not to drive 35 miles in it. But Mondays, I usually have Zoom on all morning, maybe most of the afternoon. Same on Fridays, maybe the same on Wednesdays. I do not want to meet with you at 8 o'clock at night or on a Saturday on a regular basis. But as a one-time thing to clear something up, I'm fine with it. No worries. So I'm flexible. The course description we talked a little bit about, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it again anyway. Historiography is kind of a funky thing to try to get your head around because it's the history of history, right? And so you want to, we're focusing on the different styles and different techniques that historians have used to figure out what happened in the past and how some of those approaches have faded out of favor for one reason or another, and how some of those approaches have withstood the test of time or are, you know, the new and improved things that you want to have to your toolbox. And most historians, right, are going to be able to use a few different things. You know, it's just like being a mechanic, right? You can't just know how to use a screwdriver. You have to know how to use a whole bunch of different things. So you can look through the course description there, but really what we're looking at in this particular project or this particular course is the role that history plays in any particular society, the role that historians play, and how we develop good history research papers, right? So, I need to change the syllabus. This is clearly not a virtual remote course. All this stuff is for the gen ed people, right? We talked about the readings that you need. You need the Turabian. 1 second, I'll go get mine. All right, we talked about these things a little bit, right? So we've got Turabian, this manual for writers. It is the historian's reference book. You guys all need one. You all need one sitting on your shelf. I refer to it all the time. You know, however many years later it is, 30 years later after I got my first edition, still using it. We're not going to read this thing back and forth. Nobody reads a reference guide from front to back. But you guys want to know what's in it. So when you're thinking to yourself, I wonder how I'm supposed to quote something like that, this has the answer. All right. We talked a little bit about using, gotta figure out how the camera works. Gaddis's Landscape of History. I love this book. It's philosophical, it's conceptual, it's well written. It gets you thinking about history and how you put together imaginative exercises that give us access to the past, right? And I think it'll help you figure out things for your paper. And then we're using Orwell's 1984. You use any version you want. I like my big, thick version with subliminal messaging on every page. But what I want to do with 1984, I know that some of us have read it before. I want us to read it again. I want to come up with an assignment that talks about the role of history in the past. The role of history in Orwell's book and what he's trying to say about historical memory and what he's trying to say about information, misinformation, and how do you know if something is actually real, right? So I think that stuff's cool. Those are the required readings that I'm assigning you. It doesn't sound like much because it's not. We've got a couple of other readings that are going to come in a PDF form, but most of the readings are going to be of your choice. Now, let's get into that a little bit. All this other stuff is optional readings. Praxis Guide, by the way, if you're planning on being a secondary ed teacher, you will need to take a praxis examination. I have this up here because I have been surprised, at least in the past, I don't know what the story is at the moment, at how many secondary ed teachers I was the first person to tell them this. Oh, we're going to need to do this, and the class will be part of that. So if you're a secondary ed teacher, get the latest version of the Praxis Study Guide and, start making sure that you can study for it with your classes. And for what it's worth, LCSC has a very good rate of getting students, passed on the Praxis exam. Grading and evaluations, to be honest with you, this stuff is going to fluctuate a little bit, right? We get, and I'll go through it and then I'll explain why. We got 20% class participation. Yes, I want a couple of research appointments with the LCSC librarian. I want you guys to get a good start to this paper. I want you guys to work with the Writing Center. I want, a resume and a resume and a CV eventually, but mostly I just want you to engage with the material in the class. We're going to do an analytical book review on 1984. We're going to do a proposal, annotated bibliography with introduction. This is a formal, proposal. This is the whole, I want to do my project and I can demonstrate I have all the materials for it. I'll talk about individual assignments later. A 3-page analytical article review. In the syllabus and in the modules, it says a book review. It can be a book review, but we're going to do 2 of these. One of them has to be a book. One of them could be a book. It could also be an article. All right. I'll talk about how I want to do that. Here's the next one, the article. A 10-minute research in progress presentation and a historical lit review. All right, all this other stuff, it's just going into more detail about that kind of thing. Grading scales, you guys read that kind of stuff about being late. Attendance policies, I like you to be here. And then the schedule, right? The Let's talk real briefly about an assignment. The very final assignment, so we kind of understand how the class is organized. And then I think I'm going to stop here, and then I'll leave it at questions. And I'm not entirely satisfied with the way the assignment's written, but it's good enough. The purpose of a historiography paper is to lay out a crash course of how previous historians have addressed the topic that you're interested in. You want to deal with the issue of, whatever. I always pull something out of a hat that I don't know nothing about. Battlefield medics during the American Civil War. All right. So before you have any business writing a paper about battlefield medics during the Civil War, you need to find out who has already done that kind of stuff. That's the first mission. Who are the people currently or previously who've worked on the topic? And everybody's topic's going to be a little bit different on this front. So in this particular case, you could discover that this is a fairly new field. The people that started the field are still around. You could discover that it's actually something that's been written up in the past. Here is the historian that put it on the map. And then 100 years later, other people are doing it, but they're doing it way different than the first person did. And these are the different kinds of changes. You can imagine a battlefield medic paper in which we're talking about how the subject has changed over time, in the sense of, well, at first, it's really focused on, military historians and the role of the medic in war. And then later on, it starts to figure out that, hey, when we're really talking about battlefield medics, what people are really doing is, pulling these, soldiers to houses in town looking for help from local women. I don't know, I'm making things up, right? But this is sort of how you can see how military historians might deal with it one way, and then you might find the historians of women dealing with it a different way. You guys get the idea. That's kind of what you're looking for, right? And so these are the questions. How has it changed over the period of time? Is your topic the way it was written up in the 1950s and the 1980s and the 2000s and the 2020s the same? Probably not. Who are the big dogs doing the scholarship? You got to know that before you start writing something, right? There's no reason for you to write something. There's no reason for you to write something that somebody else already wrote better, right? You want to see what you can add to things. The different types of approaches, methods, theories. We talked about a little bit of this. And then maybe there's debates, right? And debate doesn't have to be hostile, you're wrong. Debate can be, we're good friends, we agree on almost everything. You think economics plays a bigger role than I do. I think psychology is the main thing at factor here. There's a debate, right? So what I want you to do this semester is pick something you're interested in, that you want to learn about, that has to do with history. And so 20 years at least in the past. All right, 20 years at least in the past. I think if you can pitch something to me, we're going to work on coming up with reasonable topics. Okay, some of y'all are going to start off way too small and have to expand it. Some of y'all are going to start off way too big and have to get smaller. But we'll find something. The sources are tricky. It says variable, Because sometimes if you got the right 2, 3, 4 sources, that's all you need. But most of y'all are going to need about 6, right? And the big thing here is your bibliography is going to have way more, because your bibliography is your scouting report for how many sources you think you're going to need. Now, let's get back to the syllabus for a second, and then I'm going to shut things down and we'll talk about this in class. So much of our assignments, right, is setting up the scouting report. We are doing an analytical book review. We finally found one article we think actually fits. We finally found a book we think actually fits. This annotated bibliography, whatever the boy, I can barely talk. The criteria are on it. I want 15 sources. Yeah, 15 sources for you to kind of skim through, look at the introduction, see if it'll work. Because most of them will not. A few of them will, but we only have so much time. So one of the things for this class is learning the skill to pick the right book for the job. All right? And that's how the class is organized. The class is organized over that final assignment. All this stuff in here is all set up to get us to the final assignment. We got research in progress presentations so we can talk about what's going on with our assignment. We got outlines so we can get set up for our final assignments. We got a book analysis on something we're going to include in our final assignment. We've got these learning through discussion outlines so that Gaddis can help us get to thinking a little more creatively about our final assignment. We've got, I think starting next week, this Interpretations of American History where they kind of outline 100 years of American historiography, so you can kind of see, oh, this is how the pendulum's kind of swung in different things, so I know where to fit things. Anyway, that seems good for now. Nobody freak out. Don't panic. Carry a towel, and just start thinking about your project, thinking about a topic you're interested in, something you want to do. I'm happy to give you a topic. Some of them are easier than others. But that's our main thing right now, thinking about what kind of topic you might want to do and starting to get your head around what a historiography, also known as a lit review, all right, they're the same thing, how that might be different than a regular history paper. A quick reminder for those of y'all who've had political philosophy. The introduction to every chapter in political philosophy is an excellent example of a lit review. These are the different authors that talked about the topic. These are the different approaches they've taken. These are the people that kind of agree, schools of thought. These are the people that kind of disagree. Here we go. So don't forget, you already know something about this. And we'll talk about the rest in class. All right, good luck.